Your life doesn't matter.
There was a point of time when I was of the thinking that what's the point of everything if we're all going to die? Yeah, I know, dramatic, but at the ripe age of 19, I finally figured out that humans actually created a word for that thinking, along with the many other concepts that humans be creating words about. The word itself is death anxiety, a morbid awareness of mortality together with an extreme fear of one's own death, the process of dying, the afterlife, or the death of a loved one. Why can't y'all make that effing easier? Dictionary.com. I understand how this thought process can be detrimental, but I still have fragments of this thinking which oddly motivates me. If my time is limited on this earth, why not chase these goals that are so insane to others but possibly possible for me? I think everyone goes through this death anxiety phase at some point, where they think to themselves, what the fuck happens to us when we die? Or do we just have 59 more years to live and then we're just gone? Insert your nervous laugh here. I'd love to just sit here and throw different ways of thinking at you, but I got to know how others feel about this too.
Psych! I lied. I was going to insert public interviews I did with random people on their thoughts about life, but you don't need to hear that. It's all about me, myself, and I. Nah, I'm just playing. Or am I? You don't know. I think the unique thing about how all of us view life is that we see it differently. As I asked more and more people about the meaning of life, or is there anything after we die, there were no repeated answers. When you continue to question life, you leave yourself more confused and depressed. And while I'd love to take a YOLO and I'm just here, I'm just living approach at life, I just can't. I'm an overthinker at heart, and I'd like to think people depend on me. And that's not just me trying to suffer up my ego. If there's one thing I learned about life in general, is that there's no equation to solve life. It's just a bulk of experiences that are waiting to be had. Bars. Let me run that back for y'all. If there's one thing I learned about life in general, is that there's no equation to solve life. It's just a bulk of experiences that are waiting to be had. I remember going to one of my first college parties excited with the boys, and I actually left that party somewhat disappointed. When there was a song that a majority of people didn't know or thought dancing without having an already rehearsed routine that you've done before at parties would just make you look corny and out of place, people just didn't dance. Instead, they huddled in their little groups, and I saw a good deal of boys broadening their shoulders and putting on their toughest WWE glares to scare off other dudes but somewhat impressed women. And I just thought to myself, you're not a gangster, bro. You go to Harvard. And I realized vice versa that many girls were all huddled in their own little groups trying to look as pretty as possible so that maybe a group of guys would talk to them. And this was all during the midst of the peak of the party. What I took from this experience was that at a time where we're supposed to have the most fun in life, we're still marred by people's judgments. We either act like we don't care about others and still need their attention, or care enough to negatively think about ourselves through their eyes. Even as I'm creating this YouTube video, I'm trying to compile a series of clips that make my life look interesting and worthwhile watching. And even as I recognize these things, I still do it.
Cause I'm securing me, sure you hear me, still on my earrings. Niggas gon' mirror me, wanting to fear me, chain on purity. See that shit clearly. Designer rocket by five in my pocket. I go for the store, you niggas can't black, and I'm coming like dragons. Following me, my heart can't stop, but
Fatality.
oh man, bro.
In the midst of doing things we love, we still hesitate to ask ourselves, what do they think? And I'm not a damn expert, okay, but I do realize how much my generation cares so much more about what the other man and woman is doing. It's so much more exacerbated with the use of social media, and we all just fucking compare our lives to snapshots of a person's life we have no clue about. I hate to be generic and say the same shit as those corny influencers who try and motivate people for 5 minutes just to say be you, but it's just that simple. I think the less and less we care about others' opinions, we'll begin to enjoy our lives more. But it's not that simple. I still put the cereal before the milk, not to look weird.